Coming up on this special edition of Fulton Today, the disturbing trend continues of rising cases of COVID-19 in the county. Details on what county leaders are doing to keep their employees and citizens safe. Fulton's District Health Director makes a plea to the public. We'll go one-on-one with Dr. Lynn Paxton to get that plea directly. And are you ready for early voting for the runoff? We have the rundown of the locations and times. Those stories and, of course, an update on the testing sites right now on this special edition of Fulton Today, which starts now. Welcome to this special Fulton Today, everybody. I'm Shania Chavis-Rucker. We are at one of the many county testing sites, and has been the case in many of the locations. There's a steady stream of cars coming through with people wanting to get tested for COVID-19. We'll have more on the testing sites in a bit. But first, Fulton County returns to a modified Phase 1 reopening plan after cases increase and community spread continues. The CEO for Fulton County Government, Dick Anderson, is back with us. Sir, thanks again for being here.
Hi, Shania. Glad to be with you again.
Well, I mentioned we are at one of the testing sites. We're at the Wolf Creek Amphitheater. What are the latest testing trends?
Well, testing again continues to be our mainstay. In fact, now we have tested over 250,000 people, 250,000. And that represents more than Gwinnett, Cobb, and DeKalb put together. So it really shows the emphasis that we've placed on testing. In fact, we had the CEO of CORE, which is one of our partners in this whole testing arena, and they commented that we are a leader compared to Los Angeles, to DC, and 8 other metro areas where they work, both in terms of how aggressive we've rolled it out, the staffing model that we've used to have mobile sites as well as fixed sites, and then just the sheer volume. The trends are another matter. The trends have turned negative in terms of the number of positives that we're seeing in our community. So that's clearly something to be concerned about. It's also, as a percent of the total tests that we're administering, that has turned up, meaning more positives per test. So both of those trends are concerning. In addition to that, we're seeing more folks going into our hospitals. We're over 400 now. Just a few weeks ago, we were below 200. So that's concerning. So we're watching all of those trends, and those are ones that we need to keep an eye on and need to continue to be vigilant about in terms of wearing a mask, social distancing, and hand sanitizing.
And so I also mentioned that Fulton County government is returning to the Phase 1 approach. What does that mean exactly, and what caused this change?
Well, returning to Phase 1 is really driven by the 3 gating criteria that we've had and a safety-first mindset from the very outset. We've said if the number of cases go above or turn in the wrong direction on a 7-day moving average, or if we can't test sufficiently, or if we don't have adequate personal protective equipment, we would not move forward. Well, what we can see now is the number of cases have turned negative in the last 7-day rolling average. And until we see that move back in the other direction, we're going to return to more of a telework first policy. So for all of our administrative functions, many of the employees that work at 141 Prior, we will be going back to teleworking as the preferred option. Now, some of the services that we provide, such as in the tax commissioner office, probate court, the courts themselves, clearly have to continue to interact with the public on a direct basis, and they will do so. However, we're even looking there at additional protocols to follow in terms of potentially appointments, as well as any changes in rule or law that would allow the public to only interact with us on a remote basis. Of course, we've discussed before the use of our kiosk in the tax commissioner's office has been a real innovation, and now over 60% of the transactions are done either online or through the kiosk. So that's been hugely helpful. So we want to look to see if any other ideas of that nature could be operationalized either through technology again or a change in rule that would allow the public to conduct business with the county but not have to be here on site.
And let's talk now about the safety protocols Fulton is following.
Yes, we continue to emphasize safety protocols when coming to our facilities. You are required to wear a mask, both as an employee as well as a citizen. we do temperature screening at each one of our entrances. As well as that, we have placed the markers on the floor to remind everyone to stay 6 feet apart. So those things continue to be reinforced, and I think they're very helpful, and I think it makes our employees feel more comfortable, and I think it makes the citizen feel more comfortable. If you come here and you don't have a mask, we can provide you a mask as a citizen that needs to be here and needs to conduct business.
And Mr. Anderson, let's shift gears a little bit to the funds received by the federal government to respond directly to the COVID-19 crisis.
Well, the average citizen needs to know that the federal government determined that to respond to COVID-19 on all dimensions really required governments of a certain size to receive funding where they could adequately procure equipment, provide testing, and provide community support, as well as continue to operate. So governments above 500,000 folks, or representing above 500,000 folks, did receive direct allotments from the federal government. In the case of Fulton County, that was $104 million. So at the midpoint of the year, we have either already expensed or allocated about 90% of that funding. So we're well down the path of the plans to deliver services directly to citizens. There's also been some discussion about should there be direct reimbursements to cities. And we have already developed a program to directly reimburse our cities, about $2.5 million out of those funds. But in addition to that, all of the services that we're delivering, whether it's testing for citizens or personal protective equipment that will flow to the cities, are meant to benefit our municipalities and their citizens through the administration of these funds. So in fact, we showed our board about 60 to 62 million in those kinds of services that will be delivered. So I'm pretty confident that we have the scale, we have a good plan, and this is the way to respond most effectively to COVID-19, is for a government of our size and of our scope to administer those funds. And by the way, they have to be administered by 12/31 of this year. So having them either already expensed or planned for at mid-year is a good fact. And again, now it's mainly execution over the last 6 months of the year.
And the Board of Commissioners is meeting just once this month. Any initiatives of note from the July meeting?
Yes, we were excited to discuss a new initiative around training. This is for workers who have been displaced, perhaps from the service industry, and it would really be focused on digital literacy. So it's things like PowerPoint presentations or Microsoft Office. And as we looked across the landscape, there are a number of jobs open in Fulton County. Many of those jobs, though, require some level of digital literacy or understanding those computer programs. So working with partners like Atlanta Technical or others, we will design a program that really is focused on closing that gap. And the goal of that is to have 2,500 to 3,000 folks come out at the other side of that fully capable of filling some of those jobs. So we're excited to do that. It'll be a $5 million investment on behalf of the county. It will begin almost immediately in the next 30 days or so. So again, that was a very significant initiative that was discussed today, and we're very happy to have gotten favorable approval of that from the Board of Commissioners.
And of course, we always like to get your final thoughts.
Well, my final thoughts are that we're concerned about the trends as they exist. I'm not sure if it's a combination of Memorial Day, the protest, or reopening of the economy, or perhaps all of the above. But certainly we're concerned about what we see. Now, it's not just in Fulton County. It's in Georgia. It's in the nation. And you don't have to look very far to South Carolina or Alabama or Texas or Florida to see some of the same results. But that doesn't say that we cannot continue to focus on the right things, continue to push the right agenda. In fact, we are now advertising aggressively in terms of these very messages relative to getting testing, executing social distancing, wearing a mask. And again, those combination of things will help us reverse these trends back. And it really is, we are all in this together is the message. And we hope that by taking all those actions and doing the right things, that we will see the virus abate, but more importantly, that we avert both illness, but most importantly, death among our citizens. So that isn't not only our final thought, it's our all-consuming thought.
CEO Dick Anderson, we certainly appreciate you always making time for us.
Thank you again, Shania, for having me. I know this is somewhat of a sobering message, but again, it's the reality, and we've got to deal with the cards that we see in front of us, and I think we have a good plan, and we continue to execute very effectively in Fulton County.
Well, it's certainly been a huge team effort. Thanks again, sir. And still to come, the doctor is in the house with her plea as it relates to wearing masks. Stay with us, everybody. Well, as we've been reporting, the cases of COVID-19 continue to increase here in Fulton County, and many residents are coming to the testing sites around the county, like right here at Wolf Creek, to learn their status. Fulton's Board of Health is conducting these testing sites in conjunction with its community partners. Dr. Lynn Paxton is the District Health Director for Fulton County. Welcome to Fulton today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So we are hearing about the stress and demand on our healthcare professionals. How is your team at the Board of Health responding?
Well, my team is responding rather heroically, if I must say. We have vastly increased the number of people who are working at our call center to respond to the number of calls that have come in. We have keeping our testing sites very well manned to try and deal with the vastly increased numbers of people that are coming in, and we now have a dedicated line for people who are calling in just to get their results. So we're making a lot of strides.
And doctor, what about the safety measures you are asking the public to take?
Well, actually, nothing has changed from what we've been recommending since the very start of the epidemic. First of all, wear this mask. This is one of our best defenses against the virus. Secondly, maintain social distancing. Try to stay and maintain at least 6 feet between you and other people that you are not part of your household, that you're not quarantining with. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Those still matter. But the most important thing is basically social distancing and wearing your mask.
And we are here at one of the testing sites, as we've mentioned, so we are seeing firsthand the steady flow of cars. It's clearly an increase in demand.
Oh, yes, our testing sites have been quite busy. We have a number of partners. We work very closely, the Board of Health with CORE, and they have a number of sites, and including mobile sites. We have a number of testing sites, including some mobile sites. And all of them have been experiencing a huge upsurge in the number of people who are visiting them to get testing. So we are, as I mentioned before, we are directing a lot of resources towards that so we can help meet this surge of tests. And we're asking people to make an appointment beforehand. That helps us to better manage our volumes. And we're doing everything we can to meet this surge, including instituting a relatively new system to us, in which people will be able to go online and to make their own appointments, therefore not having to call the call center. And in addition, this same system will, once the person has been tested and the results are back, will send that person an email and alerting them to their results being available.
And please wrap it up, doctor, with your final thoughts.
Well, my final thoughts is that if I can get the word out to the general public about the importance of the very simple things you can do, once again, wear a mask, social distance, then I would feel that my job will be done. Because what we have found, the reason we're having this surge of cases is because ever since we've come out of the sheltering in place, people have the erroneous belief that things are all good, that we're back to normal. We are not back to normal. And the fact that people have relaxed their guard on wearing the mask and maintaining social distancing has resulted in us now arriving at the point where we have about as many cases, or actually we have more cases than we had when we first went into shelter in place. So I am a representative of the public health system, but the important thing is that public health really relies on the public. What we need is for everyone to take this seriously. And this is a simple thing. Wear your mask now so that you don't have to keep wearing it for years because we haven't controlled the epidemic.
Dr. Lynn Paxton, thank you for joining us for your first Fulton Today interview, and welcome to Fulton County.
Thanks again for having me. It's great to be able to work for such a fabulous county.
Now, to get a full listing of all of the testing sites, please visit the Fulton County website. And still ahead, those early voting locations and times. Stay with us. Fulton County voters will be able to cast their ballots for the August 11th general primary, nonpartisan, and special election runoff. Election starts Monday, July 20th. So where are the early voting locations, and what do you need to know about the voting during this pandemic? FGTV's Daryl Carver has the story.
Now, the Fulton County Board of Registrations and Elections has expanded the number of early voting locations from the primary. That means that there are several more locations, including South Fulton Service Center, that voters will be able to visit to cast their vote in the runoff election. However, one of those locations is an absolutely massive one on a scale that Fulton County has never seen before. That massive location is State Farm Arena, which the Hawks have graciously allowed Fulton County to use both for early voting for the upcoming runoff election, but also early voting for the general election. That being said, there are several other locations that people can visit around the county to cast their ballot in advance of that August 11th election. So every weekday from Monday, July 20th to Friday, August 7th, between the hours of 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., voters can visit any of those early polling locations and cast their ballot in the runoff election. There are also Saturday hours on July 25th and August 1st from 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. So please keep in mind that we are still in the midst of a pandemic. So Fulton County Registration and Elections is asking voters to, if at all possible, please bring a facial covering with you when you head out to the polls, and be prepared to observe social distancing once you arrive. For more details on times, again, and locations, you can visit the Fulton Elections website at fultonelections.com. Reporting from the South Fulton Service Center, I'm Daryl Carver for FGTV.
Thank you very much, Daryl. Now here is a complete list of all of the early voting locations in Fulton County. And when we come back, a generous donation is made at the Fulton County Jail. Stay with us. And finally, one other note from the Fulton County Board of Commissioners July meeting. Commissioners voted to recognize Juneteenth in 2021 as an official Fulton County holiday. Juneteenth is the holiday celebrating the emancipation of the remaining slaves in Galveston, Texas on June 19, 1865. President Abraham Lincoln had abolished slavery nearly 2.5 years before that day in the United States. The Fulton County Sheriff and the staff over at that Rice Street facility are recipients of one generous donation. Sheriff Ted Jackson was contacted by Reverend Billy Honor from the New Georgia Project in regards to donating masks to inmates and the Sheriff's Office employees at the jail.
This is important, so we plan to give out at least 70,000 masks to correctional facilities all over the state. This first one is 16,000, so this is really important because Fulton County is the largest county jail in Georgia. And so we want to start at the largest one. We'll be in Albany and Dougherty County, then we'll go to Macon-Bibb. And so it's really important for us to start at the largest one to send a statement.
Gospel singer Lecrae donated the masks to the New Georgia Project, and they chose the Sheriff's Office as the recipient.
Our ultimate goal in this situation is to meet the needs of the incarcerated individuals and the essential workers, and just to make sure that their needs are met. So if they need 70,000 masks, we want to get 70,000. If they need 200,000, we want to get 200,000. Our goal is just essentially to meet the needs, and we know that that's an ongoing process and ongoing work. So we're just trying to do our part in this moment.
Lecrae, along with members of the New Georgia Project, delivered the items. The Fulton County Sheriff was grateful for the donation.
We have 1,200 employees between the medical contractors and the staff, and 2,400 inmates, and these masks are for them. And with the pandemic getting worse, there's shortages of masks. So this will help us out until we can get the supply built back up again. So this means a lot to us, and for us to be chosen and Lecrae to be here to actually donate to them, it means a lot to us, and it really I guess helps the morale here that people on the outside care. Additionally, it shows that the community and law enforcement can work together, and we care about each other, and we try to help each other, and that's what this is all about.
Again, Fulton County has been implementing numerous safety protocols in order to help decrease the spread of COVID. And before we go, our reminder that FGTV wants to connect with you online. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for up-to-date Fulton County news. You can also check us out on our YouTube channel, so please do us a favor and subscribe. Well, that does it for this special edition of Fulton Today. Thank you so much for watching. Join us each week for news around and about Fulton County.